Alright, hello. So you might not know who I am, but I'm Mario, the guy who talks about Sonic, but his name's Mario, and I do commentary a lot. Before we get this started, there's no direct answer on what is the best kind of gameplay to use within a commentary. So I'm just going to go over personally what I think makes a video interesting with gameplay, and also go over some minor history. So let's get this started. When a commentary channel doesn't feel like doing some overly edited John Swan / right opinion visuals type beat, they usually go for gameplay, and gameplay is a great spot to fill in for footage you don't feel like filling out. But I'm going to go over some do's and don'ts with gameplay. But let's go over some minor history before we do that. Gameplay was synonymous with commentary during the age of Leafy and Pyrocynical in 2016, with Leafy using CSGO surf footage and Pyrocynical using, well, whatever the hell he felt like. It was either follow the herd using CSGO surf or follow Pyro and using Garfield cart. Let's actually go over some of the do's and don'ts. Don't have the entire video just be gameplay. I'm not here to watch some with the occasional minor editing to space out and have some gameplay footage of what you're talking about. And if you're going to use some transitions, make sure to not give me a seizure while I'm looking at the video. Anyways, yeah, that's the major first point I want to talk about. And not just have a single image be the thing you're filling it out with. Alright, next point. When using gameplay, you gotta have something interesting. I don't want to see you navigate through menus throughout the entire time, or till you get your ass handed to you by some 12e in Fortnite. So it better be something interesting when you're using gameplay. And if you're gonna have character stills, you can go with that hand in hand and actually have something interesting in the background if you don't feel like having a random background. Looks a lot nicer when you have a character still and gameplay. Okay, next point. Think about what game you're going to be using. Try to have some familiarity with your audience. If they see a game you both played, they could go, "Oh, I've played that before." But give them a form of relatability rather than pulling up with some obscure JRPG for the NES made in 1987, which is why you don't see me pulling up with Digital Devil Story, Megami Tensei, and rather pulling up with just some Sonic gameplay I found on my computer. Alright, I think that's all I need for the do's and don'ts. Let's go over some actual game genres. Platformers are my favorite genre to use when it comes to commentary, mainly for the fact that hardly anyone actually uses it, and also provides some actual gameplay footage to look at that isn't your typical shooter. But you gotta know which one you're gonna be looking at. If you're gonna be using an open world platformer like Mario Odyssey or Sunshine, you gotta have the moments where you're actually showing yourself doing the objectives and collecting whatever you need in the game. Linear platformers are a lot more easier to do, mainly due to the fact that, well, you're going from level to level rather than exploring a big open area and finding stuff over time. But I'd recommend to remove some downtimes from each level, such as loading screens, menu navigations, stuff like that, to make it flow a lot more seamlessly. 2D platformers are the same deal as linear platformers. I don't got much to add here. Okay, next genre.
Yo! Ah!
RPGs are cool. I don't want to see you navigate through menus all the time. Show mostly battle. And if your game is heavy on the story, try not to spoil it. But if your game is not heavy on story, I'd recommend to also show some story progression and minor exploration of the overworld. What about subgenres of RPGs? Western RPGs tend to be a lot more different when it comes to this, and I think Fallout New Vegas can be interesting to look at, but I'd be suggesting to show only the shooting aspects and the story progression. JRPGs show battles and story progression, but there's a lot of dialogue boxes in JRPGs, so you gotta be specific where you gotta find the proper middle ground. Okay, next point. Okay, when it comes to racing games, this is a bit of an iffy one. You're going to be using something like Mario Kart, Team Sonic Racing, Crash Team Racing, stuff like that. Try to make it look interesting and try to make yourself show that you're actually good at the video game, or at least competent enough to not be in last place every single time. And if you're going to use Garfield cart, you're not funny. Everyone's already beaten that joke into the ground. And if you're going to be using Tower Unite, you're just copying everyone else. Okay, next genre. What? Don't use shooters if you want to stand out. If you don't want to stand out within the commentary community, use shooters all you want. If you're going to use a shooter, make sure it's something that no one ever uses, which is kind of hard to do because almost every single person in the commentary community plays a shooter at some point. I'd recommend to have a shooter that's visually distinct when it comes to these kind of games. Yeah, I don't know. I don't got much to add when it comes to shooters. On to the next point.
What the hell is this?
Hack and slashes are a personal favorite of mine to use. I've used DMC5 footage a lot, at least in the ones that I still have up, but I'm saying hack and slashes are great when it comes to this. There's a lot going on and it's usually not enough to where you can overwhelm the viewer. So when it comes to hack and slash games, you're usually gonna be you'll usually be golden when it comes to this, because hardly anyone actually uses these for some reason, even though they provide great background footage. Okay, on to the next genre. Okay, I'm gonna be blunt here. If you're bad at rhythm games, don't use them as background footage. I'm saying this right now because if you're gonna use a gameplay of a rhythm game, you're gonna be made fun of it in the comments. It's actually just gonna be said for almost every game you play. If you're gonna be sucking at it, you're probably gonna be made fun of in the comment. So yeah, if you're gonna be using a rhythm game, make sure you don't suck at it and you gotta be competent at the game. Okay, next genre. Alright, I think I've gone over some of the basics when it comes to genres, but what do I think is the best genre to use when it comes to commentary? That, my friends, is the fighting game genre. This is easily probably one of the best ones to use, as for one, you could always keep the viewer entertained when it comes to this, no matter what fighting game you're using. Because when everyone uses a fighting game, they usually play Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter V. That's at least when I picked up in my years of doing commentary. Surprisingly enough, hardly anyone actually uses any Smash footage, except for like 2 I can think of off the top of my head. So yeah, I'd recommend using fighting games a lot more because they can actually be a lot more interesting to look at. But try not to get your ass handed to you online, because I know that happens a lot to me with Guilty Gear Accent Core, which is why I never use footage sometimes, even though I say it's my favorite to use, but that's not important. Even then, most fighting games are visually distinct, so it's easy to tell which one you're playing. For one thing, when you're recording footage, you're going to be showing off your playstyle, yours and yours only, because almost every person who plays a fighting game has their own distinct playstyle. It may derive from someone else's, but it's still technically your own. I think that's all I gotta go through. I was gonna include a part here where some of my friends come on and explain what their personal opinion is, but I decided to go against that because this video ended up taking way longer than it should have. I had to restart this whole video's progress in Vegas because and I had to reinstall my editing software multiple times, and it got real annoying real fast. So yeah, I'll see y'all in a couple weeks, maybe longer, and take it easy.
Fucking nerd. But she's so nice, but she's so nice, but she's so nice. But she's so nice, but she's so nice, but she's so nice. She's so nice, she's so nice. She lets me use her body. But she's so nice, but she's so nice, but she's so nice.